Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 7 of Disruptive Leaders in Tech. I'm the host, Sam Evans from Lawrence Harvey, and today I am joined by Priya Raman from Accenture. Priya has an incredibly impressive background, and obviously, Priya, you obviously the viewers and listeners won't know this, but you're actually my first ever in-person meeting in my career at Lawrence Harvey.
Yes, I remember.
We grabbed a quick coffee in New York with obviously our managing director, Michael Giorgio. But I was looking into obviously your background, and at the time you were with Hub International, the insurance company out of Chicago.
Right.
And we were working with you on there and over there for a bit. You've been with Coca-Cola, you've been with Nielsen, you've been with Microsoft and played a massive role there that I obviously will let you get into a bit more detail about there. And then now you're over at Accenture. So first questions first. Yeah. Can you elaborate on everything I just sort of said and tell us a bit more about yourself, how you began working with data and how you got to the point where you're at now?
Oh, thank you, Sam, and hello, everyone. It's my pleasure to join episode 7 on your podcast. And so, a bit about myself. I'm currently the global managing director, leading data products and analytical solutions at Accenture, and do that at an enterprise level. Before Accenture, like you mentioned, I played the CDAO role at Microsoft. I took that organization from 0 to 80 in a matter of close to 36 months, and it was very exciting.
Yeah.
I spent 26 plus years in building data and analytics organizations from scratch globally and across industries. You did mention, I was at GE. I started actually with GE Aviation. That's the closest I got to rocket science. And building supply chain analytics and long-term revenue forecasting, which was done for the very first time. And the company really got to see the power of data and analytics in terms of how we saved money on inventory, which was close to $100 million, which was big in that day and age. And then also building a long-term revenue forecasting model, which the company still uses after 20 years of having built the first versions of it. I also went on to build data analytics organizations from scratch for GE and GE Financial Services, starting with the marketing and sales area, Coca-Cola at a more enterprise level. I was also with Nielsen for close to 8 years, which is a company that's all about data. So it was me in the candy store trying every which possible role around data, right? Going from how we acquire data at a global level, where I led all of the data acquisition field operations across 106 countries with 11,000 people in my team. Which was quite fun, but yeah, there was never a dull moment for sure. And then when, as you said, when we met sometime around 2017 or so, I was with Hub International, which is an insurance brokerage. Again in a CDAO kind of a role at an enterprise level. So as you see, I have loved working across all of these different industries and always have taken. What I've realized is that the transformative approach, the disruptive approaches that I've brought in to set up the organization has really helped in the way I help these companies reimagine the journeys around data and analytics. And so a little bit about my current role as well, while we are at it. So in the last 18 months at Accenture, I have focused on helping our Fortune 100 customers with data-led transformation. And, my background of having worked in many different industries really helped in understanding the perspectives of the companies that we started working with. I'm also helping to build the corporate data and analytics office at Accenture, which is super exciting. We need to be the best credential in this area, as we are selling and preaching to our customers about how they need to reinvent themselves in this critical area.
Yeah.
So I have the pleasure of drinking our own champagne within Accenture.
And what obviously you've been at some super impressive companies. So you've been, in the weeds internally at those end clients and customers. And then now you're obviously being at Accenture, you're probably taking all of that experience from being on the other side and now being able to go in and like sort of bring your experience and the value that you can bring to the table on a daily basis to, like you say, like Fortune 100 companies, like some of the biggest names. Which Coca-Cola's in there, Microsoft's in there, so you might be seeing some familiar faces in that way. How did you get into data? Like when did you know you sort of wanted to be in data? Because obviously your educational background is economics and statistics, right? You got your whole education was surrounded around those things, which translates obviously so well into what you do today, right? You're on the business side, you're looking at the revenue side, and then you're applying statistics and logic and data science to those things on a daily basis. So yeah, it seems like you've known kind of the field you wanted to be in for a while, but when was that trigger for you?
That as you mentioned, it has been I've had a very quantitative background, and I also like applying a quantitative background in real life scenarios. So my very first job was with market research,
Mm-hmm.
and I worked for Kantar, where I did both quantitative research, working with big customers like Nestle, P&G, Unilever, understanding their customers, their consumers, their retailers, their end consumers, both from a qualitative perspective through focus groups on what products they like, what advertising they like, why did they like something, why did they not like something,
Yeah.
etc., to doing actually tracking studies and conjoint studies where we try to understand what is the right kind of brand, package, price, mixes, etc. So I got exposure to doing both qualitative and quantitative. And what I realized is I love that whatever we do here is understanding what the consumers want, what the customers want,
Yeah.
and being able to translate that into a marketing strategy or a sales strategy with our customers. And when I was doing the qualitative side of things, I felt like everything was more, it was more of opinions and statements, versus when I did the quantitative side of things, I realized that it drew me in because of my natural affinity to the quant side of things, and being able to really, in a very factful manner, say what did we really need to change, or what did we really need to transform. There's the power of the data that starts to come together with the qualitative exploratory side of it. So that's when the trigger went off in me, that's saying, I like the qualitative side for understanding high level things, but I really love the quantitative side where you start to bring the customer data along with all the other data in the ecosystem to create a holistic picture of what are the deterministic actions that customers need to take, or our clients need to take. So it really drew me in, and I've never looked back. I've said, okay, fine, analytics, data, that's my area. And no matter what other roles that I took, it always brought, I kept getting attracted to it. I'll give you an example. I was actually in a marketing role when I was in GE Financial Services, but 3 months down the line, we started talking about why don't we do campaigns in a more data-driven way? And I put my hand up. I said, I want to do that, and I kind of said, okay, I'm going to take that on. I'm going to build that organization from scratch, and drive campaign management with data, looking at marketing efforts from a data perspective. So it just draws me in, right?
Yeah.
That's my natural go-to.
It's very impressive. I wish I was as decisive in my my career journey as you were, but it's pretty rare. But it's obviously look at where you are now, and it just shows you've sort of worked hard to get to where you are as well. So just want to something I'm really excited to talk to you about today is a bit more about what you guys are working on over at Accenture. And obviously, before this episode, you sent through a few links. I've had a chance to take a look at it all. I'm not gonna lie, a lot of it goes over my head. I just recruit in this space, and I'm not the expert. But Accenture is obviously working on this total enterprise reinvention, right? Can you just tell the listeners and me what does that mean, and why is that so important?
Yeah, so the in an environment of constant and accelerating change, reinvention is no longer a means to the end.
Yeah,
Instead, we're looking at reinvention as being the strategy that's going to differentiate the highest performers from their peers in the future. So let me start with what we are doing in our total reinvention journey and our digital core. So at Accenture level, our reinvention journey started by strengthening our digital core and breaking down the silos to connect data, people, and processes within and across functions to change the way we work. Now, data and technology are critical enablers of this reinvention, and if you read the Fortune magazine article where our CEO, Julie Sweet, was interviewed, who put it very simply, right? Cloud is the enabler, data is the driver, and AI is the differentiator. This strong digital core is the fundamental to our reinvention. It allows companies to develop new capabilities at speed and try new things and fail fast, right? The whole culture of experimentation happens when we invest in this digital core. The core creates three layers. We talk about three layers that comprise the core. The first is the infrastructure and the security layer, which is supported by a modern cloud-based IT foundation that is automated, agile, and secure by design. That's the cloud being the enabler, right? The second part of it is the data, analytics, and AI layer, where enterprise data becomes accessible at scale, democratization, with the analytics and AI-enabled solution generating insights for faster decision making.
yeah,
And this is where the data becomes the driver and a differentiator. And then last but not the least is the applications and the platform layer, where we create new experiences with the cloud and the data as the background, in a new way of operating through modernized and new custom applications and platforms. So that's really been our journey. And let me take an example of how we are doing it at Accenture, right? And I'll take a more data specific example because I'm biased towards data always. So, we are connecting more than 300 source systems to make data available across the organization, and we made it possible by bringing together previously discrete data that sat in functions or sub-functions, making it talk to each other, making it interoperable so that we can yield new valuable insights. Now this what this has enabled us to do is not just look at functional siloed data and insights, but answer some of the toughest questions from a 360 value perspective, where companies ask, how's my profitability doing? No one function in the company can answer how's my profitability doing. It's only when you bring that data across the ecosystem, you can say, okay, fine, the decisions that are getting taken in from a people perspective or from a sales strategy perspective in terms of what our mix of business should be, etc. All of that comes together to influence, to understand and take insightful decisions with data around where profitability is today, where is it going, and what can we do effectively to change the future outcomes around the company.
And obviously with companies trying to I guess realize the value of this side of things and monetize from these things, I spoke to a lot of leaders where a lot of the headache from being a sort of chief data officer or a VP of data is not being able to pinpoint exactly what the ROI on the investment into all of this data approach and really just leaning on it, I guess, wholeheartedly. do you see that changing, where it's just like the evidence is just clearly there, where the companies that lean in are finding the answers and the solutions through the data, more so than the ones who don't?
Absolutely. And I'll take an example of Accenture, where we are driving this transformation
Yeah,
very successfully. So, Julie actually made it easy for us. We have, when we look at what matters the most, because that's where you want to start, right? What
yeah,
matters the most at the enterprise level, not just at a functional level. Like the functional level, people may want to know, can I get my people data to look at something, or finance data to look at something else? But it's really about what matters the most at an enterprise level. As an organization across functions, what is the value that we want to drive? And what Julie Suite leads by is the 360 value wheel, where we look at not just the financial outcomes of the company, but outcomes around sustainability. We want to be carbon neutral by 2025. We look at our talent. We look at our talent inclusion and diversity part of the talent. We look at experiences, our employee experiences, our customer experiences, our supplier experiences, our partnerships. So the 360 value covers all of those aspects, and we define what outcomes we want to drive, not just in the current year, but in the future as well, 5 years out. And based on, and that becomes the base for us from a data perspective to say, what are the questions from a data and insights perspective the organization needs answered? And how can we start bringing the data together to not only tell the organization where we are, on financials or on sustainability or inclusion, diversity, any of those outcomes, and why are we here? Where are we going? Making it more predictive.
yeah,
And if we don't like where we are going, what is the recommendation? What's the change that we need to make now to impact the future,
yeah,
right? And all of that very nicely lines up with the descriptive part of data of where we are, with the diagnostic part of it, of why we are here, predictive part of where we are going and why we are going in that direction. And then the
yeah.
prescriptive part of it, what should we do differently? So we start to bring that all together. And the way we approach it is we work with the leaders in the company to say, what are the questions from a 360 value perspective that we want to answer? Those are the toughest questions. How do we bring the data around them, make it talk to each other to start answering those questions effectively, and not just one-off, but make it scalable and sustainable to answer those kind of questions on a more ongoing basis.
I think just from hearing what you're saying here, like it just shows that Accenture and probably similar organizations, but it seems like Accenture are really trying to lean into being like the forefront of this kind of enterprise reinvention. You guys are going to be so important then for a lot of companies to kind of follow your lead and trying to really maximize that reinvention, that revolution, and evolving in this space with data, because data's been around for a while, but in the grand scheme of things, we're right at the start of it, right? This is all brand new to us. Like, it's not all the data and data literacy, which we'll talk about in a moment, but this is brand new to the world in reality. So it's going to be exciting to see where you guys go with this, and I think it's going to be very important for a lot of companies to follow your lead.
Absolutely. And I wanted to add one more concept that allows us to go fast.
Yeah.
Normally, and there was something that you said that, do companies that lean in fast and look at the enterprise-wide value at the C-suite level, they definitely realize the value faster with data and analytics as well, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
One of the things that we've noticed, it's such a fast-growing field, and there are companies that had dwelt too much on building the infrastructure first. So when you start to say, okay, fine, let's pave all the roads first before we ride any of the cars on it, we know that the value gets delayed, it causes impatience, and there is like a tug of war on whether we should fund this or not, because we're not seeing the value fast enough. But then if you've also seen the flip side of it, that when we work on the value without the infrastructure, we don't build sustainable solutions. So those are those one-hit wonders that come and go.
Yeah.
And you say, remember in 2008 we had this report that was really helpful. So it's not sustainable. So what we work is with a dual velocity approach. That's a secret sauce. And what dual velocity means is that velocity one, we work in a rapid data lab mode to build answers to the questions of around 360 value outcomes.
Yeah.
So the first and most important thing that we do is, say, for example, I talked to you about profitability as an example. When we look at profitability, we want to understand what are all the levers that impact profitability. Start to bring that data together, ensuring that it's the right data. Start to bring that data together to build the diagnostic and the predictive models, which we went ahead and created in 6 to 8 weeks. Now, were those models perfect? No. But it started giving the organization fact-based answers versus the speculative discussions that we were having around the topic. And we continue to build and improve those models. So the good news is that you can go create in a rapid data lab in an experimentative mode in 6 to 8 weeks with the data you start to bring together. That starts to become useful, and it becomes better and better over a period of time. And in the meantime, we have velocity too. So whatever data that we started to bring together, we say, okay, fine. We realize that these systems don't talk to each other in real life. We brought the data in a sandbox to make it happen. But how can we now ensure that we industrialize that data as data products on top of our data lakes, and ensure that we break down those silos systematically across the data so that it becomes more useful, reliable, trustworthy, and secure from the get-go, and then starts to create those solutions that we are already building in a more sustainable manner as we go forward. So the velocity one and velocity two works in tandem. So we are turbocharging the value realization while building the foundations that allow for scale and sustainability.
Yeah. It's going to be, like I said, it's going to be very impressive to watch. And just from hearing in a little bit more detail, I tried to read on it. Like I say, a lot of it does go over my head a bit, but just hearing you explain it a bit better, it just sort of shows, and hopefully the listeners kind of get this as well, but shows the importance of this and the time that we're at now, especially with some of the topics we're going to talk about later today, the AI and just the way people are using data, and kind of a bit of a good segue now to I guess data literacy within companies throughout. How do we increase data literacy within companies? How do companies increase that internally, and how do we make I guess employees within these big organizations more comfortable leveraging their data and trying to find solutions and ideas and answers from their data that they already have that they might not be using right now because they don't know how to ask the right questions?
That's a great question. I would like to answer it in two parts. First, I'll just address data literacy directly, and then I want to talk about the overall topic of culture, right? Because data literacy, some of the things that we do around leadership behaviors and talent, all of that comes together. So we'll park that for now, but let's talk about data literacy directly. So I have a little bit of a different point of view. I feel like we can go on a crusade to educate everyone. This is how you need to look at data. This is how you need to use data, etc. Or make it so easy that people know, oh, I know how to do this. I know how to use this, etc. I often give the example that we need to make it like the Apple phone. You don't need an intensive training program to know how to use an Apple phone. You kind of it grows on you very quickly, and the user experience is awesome. So when we look at data literacy, we look at what are the containers through which people are consuming the data insights, AI assets that we build, right? So we have the data marketplace where we bring all of our assets whether it's data products, the reporting and analytics, the AI models that we have across the organization. And we take the burden upon ourselves to say, okay, fine, this is the persona, this is what they are likely to use. And this is how we should provide the guardrails for them to go use that data without thinking twice, of whether it's trustworthy, whether it's certified, whether, what's going on with this data, etc. So for the data consumer part of the audience, we want to make it very simple. We want to make it like the Apple phone, right? Very, very simple, and you can go use it on your own. And then the second container, and I call it container, but it's more obviously there's a lot of amazing content in that container. We have the navigator. We use the what we call now as the 360 value navigator, is where we bring the 360 value insights across the organization in one place, right? So we don't want people to go to 10 different places to go look at things. Our leadership agrees with the same thing, and everyone we talk to says, yeah, I don't want to go to 10 different places. You don't teach, you're teaching me then 10 different how to look at 10 different tools and try to get that data and insight out of it.
Yeah.
So how do you create one place, and how do you create amazing user experiences, which are almost like chauffeured decision flows that help you understand, okay, you want to talk about the topic of revenue? Okay, where are you in terms of revenue vis-a-vis plan? Where are you going? What is changing? And then what can you do differently to impact your future revenue outcomes? You're talking about people and skill sets. Okay, where are you today? Why are you here today? What is the mix of your people? Where do you want to go? And, given the future technologies, et cetera, and what are the kind of actions that you can take, in terms of training, building skill sets, or bringing new kind of talent, et cetera, building certain countries as bigger centers, etc. So, it's really about creating those chauffeured decision flows, helping people, convert the way people look at data in the way they look at day-to-day problem solving. Yeah. Where am I going? Is it a problem? What can I change if it still continues to be a problem?
Yeah.
So I would say that's what we pivot towards. Of course, awareness and adoption and how to use those tools. We still continue to do that, but we want to make it easy on it. We don't want to, we don't want to put the burden on the users. We want to take that burden on ourselves and help the company start to get to that logical questions of what kind of questions am I asking? What is this helping me with? I get it. It goes faster that way.
Yeah, and I guess I get from there is, it's like you say, having that ease of use and that ease of adoption is probably the key to anything within technology. This might go against the grain a little bit, but I've got a Samsung phone. But
good luck. I'm kidding.
But actually, it's a good concept on that. Like, I've had a Samsung phone from day one, so I just never, and I know iPhones are easy to use, but I've just never changed because I know what I know. And it's the same with anything in tech, and obviously on a much bigger scale of what you're talking about. But like, I guess the education piece and the ease of adoption needs to be so simple, because I think as humans, we are so reluctant to change in that way. I mean, we're just a small recruitment company, but if we ever change like a system here that we've got to use, because we've been using another one on a daily basis, like it's like enraging almost to a lot of people, like, because all of a sudden you're back to square one, and you feel like you can't do your job as well anymore. But
unless it's easier and you say, oh, this is much more easy.
Exactly.
I exactly know what to do.
but that ease has to be there. That ease of adoption has to be there, and most of the time it is, and we figure it out in 24 hours, and we're like, oh, this is actually way better. But you have to kind of herd the sheep to kind of get to that point. I guess another element of that as well that we've sort of talked about before the podcast and things, but like around like talent. This is an area where we obviously specialize in like the talent side of things, but just from a different perspective, that adoption, the skill sets required, and the talent required to kind of move things along and move things forward. So it's like, you just talk to me a little bit more about like the importance of that for this data literacy and everything to evolve.
Absolutely. I think talent is such a critical topic in this area. It's fast evolving, and things change very fast for us, even for us sometimes to keep up with all the changes that are happening. So when we are looking for talent, we're looking at a combination of things, right? We're looking at of course, the right skill sets is important. Understanding the business is an important piece of the puzzle, and then a growth mindset. And I say this because data is an area of transformation and reinvention. Data itself goes through a lot of transformation because, like whatever we said, we used to talk about big data at some point in time. We don't use that terminology anymore, right?
Yeah.
So there is such a big evolution that's happening in the data, and 2016 is old news, right? So given that things are changing this fast, you need people who come with a strong growth mindset and who are not afraid to experiment and fail. It's a difficult space to hire and retain. So when we are looking at, can we get that unicorn who has the right skill set, who has the business understanding, and also has that learning growth mindset? If we cannot find all three, then I would go for people who have the growth mindset. We can provide the training to support them, and we do that. And we can also help in terms of understanding the business. But the people that we bring in need to have tremendous growth mindset. They're walking into a startup, I say, and then when you're walking into a startup, you will do things fast, you will learn from it, you will industrialize things as you go. It's not going to be served to you in a platter. And what's important from a manager or a leader perspective that I've seen as well, which I do more and more of. I used to not do this before, but this is a learning that I would share with everyone else, is when you're bringing the team and wanting them to do things that have never been done before in the company, ensure that you provide them psychological safety. And what I mean by that is constantly saying, I got your back. Even if your experiment fails, does not matter. Let's use that as a learning to become even stronger as we go ahead. And that's a really critical element, because sometimes in very large organizations, it's important to iterate that, because people are not working in a startup. When you're working in a large established organization, there's a lot of things that are safety nets to protect you. But this is the corporate data and analytics office is like a startup within a large established organization. So it's really important to keep reiterating, we got your back. You're safe. We will help you. You're not going to get penalized because that experiment failed. So it's very, very important. I
was just going to say, like, that's what you just said, so important. I speak to data scientists just getting started in their career. I speak to data scientists, data engineers in the middle of their career. I speak to chief data officers, almost on a daily basis. And I think that acknowledgement that it is a science, and that you're basically most of your experiments are probably going to fail, but that just means you're one step closer to being in the right direction. That understanding, and then having a leadership that understands that and says, like you say, on a daily basis, like, we have your back. I think is so important, especially around retention, because we're speaking to people who are passively or actively on the job market, right? Within this market at all levels. And the number one reason why people are open to hearing about new opportunities is because I think that support and the culture internally, it's never about like the actual projects being worked on. I think it's about the leadership expectations of the project that's being worked on are just so unrealistic and impossible that that a lot of the time it goes against that retention piece that you mentioned, and that's what ultimately does make people look, well, I want to go to another company that respects what we're doing on a daily basis and they have our back. So it's almost like Accenture is obviously a huge organization, and a lot of the times you hear with huge organizations, there's a lot of red tape, things happen a lot slower. But I'm getting the feeling that Accenture are really, like yourself and Julie Sweet are probably a lot to do with this, but there's almost like that startup mindset there. It's like, let's get things done fast, let's get things implemented, and we trust you to go and make things happen. Is that a fair sort of feel that I'm getting?
Absolutely. Yeah. That's the way we work. And that is the expectation of us as well. That go fast, right? And doesn't matter, if the first version of it is not right. But it's about, I would say strategic patience, but incremental impatience. So every day we are constantly reinventing ourselves. And we've been this organization has been around only less than a year, and we've already gone from a 0 to 60 in a very short period of time.
Yeah.
And that's also because my leaders have my back, and I have the back of the teams that work with me to ensure that go fast, learn from it. Don't worry. We've got to be incrementally impatient and strategically patient. So we know what the strategy is. We know where we want to get there. We're not going to get there in the next 3 months. It's going to take time for us to get there. But how do we incrementally create impatience in the system, a sense of urgency in that system to make it happen? And that happens beautifully. And also we've grown as a team, right? We had around 4 or 5 people working with us, and now we have more than 500 people who are supporting this organization and working on a day-to-day basis to drive the outcomes.
Yeah. It's awesome. I think it ties into what from said earlier. Is like you guys are really seem to be at the forefront of this, and I think the speed that you're moving at, the direction you're moving in, and I guess the trust that is being put into the entire, like you say, this organization rapidly growing is going to be, from my perspective anyway, like really exciting to see kind of where this goes. And I think a lot of companies are just going to be following suit. So it's good. But I guess sort of a good transition into the next sort of area though, and kind of what keeps Accenture and yourself at the forefront is Accenture obviously invests a lot into understanding, I guess, the world and where the world's moving, and obviously using data to see that. You just released the Tech Vision report for 2023. This goes into a probably a sensitive topic, but one that's very important. And I guess from the Tech Vision report, it shows that consumers are demanding a lot more transparency around data. And you hear all the time that this has happened, that's happened, this company's done this, and things like that. And people don't quite understand what it truly means. They just feel a little bit invaded at times, I guess, or however they feel as a consumer. But you'd probably be able to provide a bit more insight. Like, what does that mean for businesses? Like, how can companies improve their data transparency? And how is that going to improve the relationship between business and consumer and everything moving forwards?
Wow, Sam, that is. I was hoping that you'd keep it like a easy questions, but this is jokes aside. But yes, the Tech Vision report explores how data transparency will be a precious resource for enterprises looking to lead in the future. It is one of the foundations in the new reality. The transparency will build trust and unlock data insights necessary to expose and tackle collective problems that we have today. But the reality is that when we look at even when we work with our customers and even internally, when we look at our data ecosystems, they are very siloed and they exist within functions, right? I mean, that the technology a function adopts and the process that function adopts, data is a byproduct of that. And then there is just a instinctive protectiveness about your own data at an organizational level. So, organizations are now starting to realize that what is the power of connected data. So even within our organization, right, we have functional data around people, finance, etc. And when we start to bring that together and answer difficult questions around profitability, or what is the kind of skill set progression that we need to look at, how do we make sustainability possible, etc., etc., there is a realization that it creates huge value. So there is now increase, even with our customers, we see that there is that increased realization that 1 + 1 + 1 is equal to 5 kind of happens when you start to connect the data across the organization.
Yeah.
I would have wanted that realization to go faster, but I've seen that it's a change management and it takes time. And some organizations, I would say, that have also taken several steps forward of creating the transparency of data, not just within their own organization, but with their partners and with their consumers to create win-win scenarios. And, I have a couple of examples of that. So Accenture and Salesforce are enhancing MasterCard's ability to measure and analyze carbon emissions across its value chain. So Accenture collaborated with MasterCard to assess its supplier landscape and deliver a sustainability cloud. It's a platform that provides robust capabilities to track, analyze, and take action on supplier level carbon emissions data, which is incredible. We could not have thought about that. We do that now. Cirium, an aviation data marketplace, it quantifies and aggregates aviation data from 97% of scheduled flights worldwide, providing transparency to customers by tracking an aircraft's usage, part wear, and real-time flight schedules from close to 880 airlines, and also looks at carbon emissions of specific aircrafts. So it's an incredible opportunity. Leaders across different companies have an unprecedented opportunity to build trust with their partners, customers, consumers by proactively becoming more transparent, or risk having someone else do it, right? But at the same time, with great power comes great responsibility. So as we do this, privacy and confidentiality will always be at the center of any decision of how we progress in this direction. Doing it responsibly is really, really important. Making data available, despite privacy, etc., could lead to very bad results. So privacy, confidentiality, doing it responsibly will need to lead some of the ways we are bringing the data together across ecosystems.
Yeah, and you just touched on it right at the end there. But I was going to ask, like, it's a fine line, right? You want more transparency, but you also want more privacy, and it's just like, how do those two things go hand in hand? And it's definitely going to be I guess a balancing act for a lot of the companies that are holding tons and tons of data for consumer data and building these profiles for these consumers and things. But I think obviously companies can get it right, and I think with the guidance of like yourself and Accenture and a lot of the big organizations, then hopefully things move forwards, and people probably they get that transparency that they want, and they know how their data is being used and things. But at the same time, the business can keep improving on their side using the data, so that relationship just gets stronger and stronger and safer and safer, right? And that, I was going to say that word safe as well, because the data is vulnerable to getting in the wrong hands and things, and the data and AI are in the headlines probably on a weekly basis, a daily basis at the moment. We're seeing like AI come out, and I guess AI has been around for a while, but like with like things like ChatGPT, it's gone to the mass public, right? And people are using AI, and it's only going to get better and more commercially used. But how do we use data, and how do businesses protect themselves away from AI and data and technology improvements being used in an unethical way?
Responsible AI is a hot topic, which is becoming even hotter with ChatGPT. People are realizing that AI can be a huge superpower. However, it can be biased, not always explainable or transparent, right? So AI systems need to be raised with diverse and inclusive set of inputs so they can reflect the broader business and societal norms of responsibility, fairness, and transparency. We cannot assume that the sources where models train from automatically take care of fairness, transparency, or explainability. We see that it is important to put these guardrails in place so companies can go fast. Sometimes people think that, if I look at responsible AI, I'm going to get slowed down. On the contrary, as we speak to our customers, and I'm working with a very large retail pharma on setting up responsible AI for their organization, we look at it as the right guardrails so that you can experiment, learn, and implement AI use cases at a rapid rate. With the rapid data lab concept, go work with it, and if something works, you are reassured that you have the guardrails of responsible AI, so you can go and launch it to the market very quickly. And so when AI is designed and put into practice within an ethical framework, we know that it accelerates the potential for responsible collaborative intelligence. There's no doubt about it. We've seen that, and it's happening. In fact, people who are reluctant to do it, I would say, go ahead, invest that time and effort upfront, so you can go much faster down the line. This because it creates a foundation of trust with consumers, the workforce, and society, and can boost business performance and unlock new sources of growth. When things like ChatGPT and other exciting things come, you're not thinking about, okay, fine, am I ready? Am I not ready? You're ready. You can go. You have the guardrails to go experiment with it and do things with it. And as an example, we, on the acceleration side of it, what we found is that Accenture found that 40% of all working hours can be impacted by large language models like GPT-4.
Yeah.
This is because language tasks take 62% of total time employees work, and 65% of that time can be transformed into productive activity through augmentation and automation. Now, doing it right with the responsible AI guardrails allows companies to go to market faster with much lower to no risks and very high effectiveness. So that's the power of it.
Yeah. It's gonna be scary. It's gonna be interesting to see where it goes. With like, I guess how companies have to adapt to using it as well, right? It's like, it's in the hands of everyone right now, but only, I imagine, 0.1% of people know how to really truly use it and get the maximum value kind of out of it. So I think companies can kind of stay ahead with the AI and the application of AI. That's going to help too.
And I would add, Sam, that there could be some really the responsible AI governance and guardrails are critical. Every company should invest in it. I compare it to the industrial waste during industrial revolution. When it happened, people said, yeah, it doesn't matter. But then, it became a bigger thing, and companies had to invest a lot more to clean up the waters or whatever else, right? So pay big fines, etc. I think that it's an investment worth making right now, especially if you want to go faster with responsible AI. And I'd also like to add, because it's, if you really break it down, when you talk about it like world hunger, it's a big problem and it's very difficult to solve. But when you break it down, there are things that we do, and we work with our customers to do the same, so that they can create the guardrails where they can go faster with AI. And some of those are things like, companies must use care when curating taxonomies and training data. And it's not just about scale, it's about minimizing the bias in the data systematically, and every data scientist would love to do that and will do that.
Yeah.
This also means by improving data availability, adding more annotations to the data as you go. Companies also need a strategic, disciplined approach to how you acquire data, where you acquire the data from, how is that data growing, how you refine that data, how you safeguard and deploy the data, right, from a governance standpoint, and how can the modern enterprise data estate help in creating trusted, reusable assets of data products. Then looking at how do you build effective governance structures and controls at critical points in the organization. So when you look at AI model development, the model development lifecycle, or machine learning operations, people call it different things. Yeah. But when you're developing the machine learning models at different points in time, there are checkpoints to say, is this model biased? Is it explainable? Is it transparent? Is it repeatable, reliable? Do we know that this reflects what's actually happening in the populations where we have picked up the data from? Those checkpoints are really, really critical as we go ahead. And companies also need to ensure that we have the right technical infrastructure, architecture, operating model, and governance, especially when you are using high compute demands of large language models and generative AI, while keeping a close eye on the cost and sustainability aspects of it. And I think one of the important things that we need to also do, apart from creating the right guardrails of how we can go fast with AI, with responsible AI and curating the data and all of the stuff that I talked about, is to also foster trust among employees, right? Of how they become more comfortable with their AI coworkers.
Yeah.
So managers, leaders need to make it clear that AI is being used to replace tasks and reimagine processes while making the employees' day-to-day work less tedious and more engaging. And there is actually the human and the AI working together to achieve outcomes versus thinking that, hey, AI is going to replace my job.
Yeah.
So it's going to be more interactive and more fun as we go ahead. But I think that culture needs to be fostered, and it needs to be done early on.
Just on that then, is there, I guess, do you guys have data on, sort of like how companies are adapting AI faster than their sort of counterparts in the industry? And, is there information about how that they're accelerating and getting better solutions and answers and things?
Absolutely. Accenture Research has a paper, and we have a website on AI maturity. It's a web page. And it's a must read. It's pretty awesome. It was a research done across the industry, and what we found is that 12% of high performing companies that use AI to achieve a strong competitive advantage enjoy 50% greater revenue growth than their peers. This group, what we dub as AI achievers in the research, are also 53% more likely to develop AI that is responsible by design, right? That allows them to go fast. So yeah, when you read that report, you'll see it has a huge impact. And I would like to see that 12% of high performing companies that use AI to become even higher, using the right guardrails, because the advantage and the impact of it is there. It's visible, is right in front of your eyes. So why wouldn't we?
Yeah. I guess it goes back to the point we've been sort of saying, like, this is all pretty new. I think companies are trying to adapt as quick as they can, but some people need to really invest the money into it, and it can be expensive and it can be daunting, I guess. But I think we're probably moving in the right direction. I'd be interested to see what maybe some
I would call it an investment. I would call it an investment, Sam. It's and not stop looking at that as an expense, because this is an investment that is directly connected to the business outcomes. And you can see my passion. I can't talk about
it. Just here as well, recently the Future of Life Institute published an open letter titled Pause Giant AI Experiments, and that called for the immediate hold for 6 months. And I think you see the headlines of Elon's at the forefront of getting signatures on this and things like that. Was it 10,000 signatures so far already? It's probably gone up by now. Do you think this pause is necessary? It seems like a really drastic sort of approach to this.
Yeah, see, the open letter on AI is important because it draws attention to a real issue, which is creating a serious dialogue around implications of AI and responsible AI. So it is drawing attention to the issue. So I like it for that reason. Now, if a company is implementing AI without a responsible AI process, policy or approach, it is simply being neglectful and reckless. And so the letter is a call to pay attention around the impact of AI technology and put the guardrails in place to ensure that there are the issues like accuracy, bias, intellectual property are taken care of.
Yeah.
A pause like you said, I feel it's drastic, is not probably the step that we need. We definitely need more transparency. We definitely need more dialogue and more companies taking step towards that responsible AI framework and methodology. We're helping our clients with training, policies, education sessions, compliance programs, similar initiatives to ensure that the companies are taking right steps with artificial intelligence. At Accenture, we've long been proponents of responsible AI, which we define as the practice of designing, developing, and deploying AI that safely and fairly impacts people and society while building trust with the impacted users. So I can't elaborate it more. I think that it is the right attention that it's creating, but the pause may be a little too drastic.
It's yeah, I mean, obviously I heard about it when, like I say, like you see tweets from Elon Musk about it, and it just seems like there's obviously a danger there, and we've obviously talked about like people using this unethically and keeping those guardrails in place. So as long as companies that are using this are doing those in the right way, but to me it's just like a pause. Is like what do they think could happen in 6 months? Like, why just a 6-month pause as well? It's a specific time frame. So that was just a bit of the confusion for me as just a general public looking in. I've got 2 more questions for you. Simple one. Is technology and AI gonna replace us? Are we all gonna be jobless and working for AI at some point?
Hey, that's not a simple question, Sam. Come on. Well, now, jokes aside again, in the past, people had to adapt in order to use technology. And now I feel that radically human technologies like AI are adapting to people, right? Accelerating the potential that people, the way people work and the way we live and the way we collaborate. So ultimately, it's people, not the algorithms that they deploy or the technologies that they use.
Yeah.
That's the reason why companies succeed, right? Now, we also need to acknowledge that AI can do many things. Despite humans being endowed with natural intelligence, we would find it impossible to recognize patterns in vast amounts of data, defeat the greatest champions at chess, run complex manufacturing
Yeah.
processes, simultaneously answer many calls at a customer service centers, scan millions of internet images in the fight against things like child exploitation, et cetera, and much else, right? But what is important is that AI has enabled humans and machines to work together efficiently. And contrary to doomsayers, such a collaboration is clearly creating an array of new high value jobs. AI will always need to be taught, and machine learning will unleash the often untapped expertise that exists across employees and companies, allowing for a broader swath of people to use AI in new and sophisticated ways. And because it's customizable to specific business situations, this opens the way to real innovation and advantage rather simply playing technology catch up. But at the end of the day, I think that AI is enabling humans and machines to work together much more efficiently than we've ever done in the past.
Yeah, I think just personally from my perspective, I think the benefits are definitely going to outweigh the negatives on this front, and only those who, that's probably the theme of the whole conversation we've had today, but only those who adapt the quickest and invest the most are going to truly see the benefits from this sort of evolution in this era of AI growth. That wasn't maybe the easiest question. This one might be a little bit easier. I gave you a little bit of a heads up on this before, but just to wrap up the episode. So you obviously in an unbelievable position right now. And by the way, Michael Giorgio asked me to pass on a big congratulations to you as well, because obviously he's known you for
Thank
a number of
you.
years as well.
A big congratulations to him as well.
Yeah. But so you today, if you could go back to a younger Priya who's just taking that first step into that first office of your first job within this space, within this field, you could only go back and give yourself one piece of advice on day one of your career. Like, what would that be?
Your career will take you in different directions. Be very open-minded and work with a growth mindset.
Yeah, it's that's a simple one, but it's I guess there's a lot more complexity behind that, right?
It is like, I mean, and if I want to elaborate a little bit around that, is that when I started my career, I did not know that I would be where I am today.
Yeah.
And there was like, I had a boss who used to tell me that you need to have your 5-year plans written down somewhere. I said, but what if something else comes up today and I'm just locked by my 5-year plan? I don't want to do that. And I know that he was very clear that he had a 5-year plan and he wanted to be a CEO of a mid-sized company.
Right.
And I always felt like if I were to do that, then I will miss all the fun that comes along the way. So I think my open-mindedness and one of my bosses say that I am a bottomless pit of optimism. I don't know how to interpret that.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
I bring those two together to say, there could be something better out there. There could be something awesome out there. And that's really allowed me to explore things that I would not have explored. So and I'll give you an example of that. When I was at Nielsen, I took on a role of leading field operations around data acquisition.
Yeah.
And that was about leading 11,500 people across 106 countries. This was the largest team that I've ever led. And I said, wow, this is going to be the team where I don't know the names of all of these people. And we were going to make a big transformation. We were on a big transformation journey on how do we go from manual to more automated ways, the digital transformation of how we collect data on the ground. And it was the most exhilarating journey. I traveled 50 countries in a matter of 2 years.
Oh, wow.
I don't remember seeing any highlight in that country except for the airport and the conference room or the markets that we went into to understand the retail where we are collecting the data from. But if I had my 5-year plan and if I had already determined that's what I want to do, I would have never taken that role. And that role really made me richer. It really made me richer in terms of about my superpower of data and analytics into how we transform that organization and lead that organization, walking the talk with data and understanding how we can make it better from an employee experience perspective. There's 11,500 people working in that organization.
Yeah.
From customer experience, and how can we provide new differentiated insights to our clients who always wanted more. So really made a big difference. So, my bottomless optimism of who knows, there could be something much more better, awesome out there. Yeah. And the growth mindset, the curiosity has really allowed me to go in different directions. And I've loved every adventure so far.
Awesome. That is a great elaboration right there. But Priya, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with me today. I know you're incredibly busy. I know you guys are working on some incredibly exciting things over there. Like I say, I look forward to watching from outside, watching you guys evolve with this. But yeah, thank you for taking the time to speak with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Sam. It's a pleasure. And as we go along the journey, maybe we get to meet again and talk about the next curve in the journey and where we are.
Absolutely. It's an industry that's evolving on a daily basis.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.